Toss aside the touchy-feely notions of love in business and recognize the real power it holds. Welcome to the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast with host Steve Farber. Drawing on his work with a wide variety of companies from the Fortune 100 to smaller family-owned businesses, Farber shares inspiring interviews with business leaders and proven strategies for how you can create experiences that your customers will love by developing a culture that your employees, teammates, and colleagues love working in. Discover why and how love, at the end of the day, is just damn good business for you too. Here's your host, Steve Farber.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. I am your host, Steve Farber. You can watch this podcast. You can listen to this podcast. You can read every word of this podcast. You can even subscribe to this podcast at stevefarber.com/podcast. Now, if it were me, I would go and I would watch it. I would listen to it. I would read it, and I would subscribe, because that way I'd be sure to retain it. But that's just me. So you do you. My guest today is Angelo Poli, who's the founder of MetPro, which is a health and nutrition and fitness company with a very unique approach. They are a concierge level coaching company in the fitness world. They work one-on-one with their clients with a mix of live coaching and apps and technology. It's a really cool thing. Angelo's story is really interesting. Like most human beings, he's overcome some pretty significant challenges and obstacles in his life. And in his role as a fitness expert, he's worked with Olympic athletes and NFL players and business executives, and even the occasional podcast host and business author. Just a guess. Anyway, he's a super energetic and inspiring guy. And Angelo, it is a pleasure to have you here on the podcast.
Oh, it's awesome to be here, Steve. I woke up this morning excited, knowing I was going to get to talk to you today. Loving it. Excited to dive in.
Well, thank you. So let's start with your story. I mentioned in the intro that you've overcome some interesting challenges in your life. I want to start with that. Okay. Was there something in particular I was referring to? And I'd just love to hear the story.
Well, I was known for many years as the trainer who walked with a cane. And that's not a good look, but I didn't want to throw in the towel, Steve. I loved the industry that I was in. I got into health and nutrition and fitness and all that when I was in my late teens. But in my 20s, I suffered a pretty debilitating back injury that really had me laid out. And so, silver linings, right?
How did that happen?
Stupidity. Stupidity. Thinking I was young and immortal and, everything would bounce off of me. And the human body doesn't quite work that way. So I got a front row seat to that whole train wreck. So I ended up making a decision that, okay, I'm not going to be, pumping iron and handing people dumbbells 24/7. I can do a little bit of that nowadays, but back then when I was really dealing with this injury, couldn't. So it forced me to focus on the strategy and the science end of transformations. And I was still very passionate about that. So that's what I did. I actually built a team of healthy, fit people to actually do the physical part. And I would run the strategy, the nutrition, the metabolic pieces, helping people figure out why weight loss is so frustrating, what their body is and isn't responding to, all that sort of stuff. And it's been an awesome journey. I can't tell you how fortunate I've been to be able to be around the people that I work with, the experts that I get to work with. I really do. And I say this with all honesty. I have the greatest clients in the world. Just inspiring individuals who are genuine in their desire to improve themselves. And we've been able to, work with just some incredible transformation stories. fun stuff and motivational stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, transformation is a word that is tossed about quite a bit nowadays. I mean, I hear it in my field all the time, i.e. transformational leadership. And then, of course, there's the whole, body transformation. There are those shows of the TV shows where people go in and like the home makeover kind of a thing.
Yep.
Transformation. We all want it. We all think we want it.
Yeah.
How do you define it? What does transformation mean exactly?
Oh, it's motivational lingo. So transformation doesn't have to be some, 150-pound makeover or reveal where your friends and family don't recognize you. That's not what it's about. When I say to someone transformation, I do use that word purposefully because I want them to know that this is a thing. There's lots of places you can go for general advice: eat less sugar, eat less fried foods, exercise regularly. You don't need me or my company for that. When somebody works with me, what we go over basically 5 key elements, foundational elements that are going to interact with how their body, health, fitness, nutrition, the whole 9 yards is going to play out. And what we want to do is recognize that if we take action and we have a strategic game plan, we're willing to actually put in a little time and effort, we're going to get the results out of it. So most people, they want to feel like they have a full transformational program. And that's really what we do, because no rock is left unturned. Science is the key. And you know what the other key is?
Fiction?
Love.
Oh, love. Really?
I thought you'd like that. I thought that would be right up your alley. I heard that you know a thing or two about that.
That's so. What do you mean by that?
So I always wanted to have a company where we could interact more on an individual level with people. Now, I know your audience is an intelligent audience. They get it. They understand the dynamics that we don't live in a fairy tale world. There's economic scenarios, there's business models, and we have to fit everything within that. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to get in shape. Here's what I want to do. I want to lose a few pounds. I want to get in shape. I really want to transform my life. And I tell them, look, I need to work with you for 60 to 90 days doing an intensive makeover. So we're going to detail out your nutrition, your exercise, your strategy. We're going to parse your metabolism. We're going to baseline test you. This is stuff that you really have to have a more open-ended, intimate relationship with someone on. People are surprised when they first call us up and talk with one of my consultants. They're expecting like, okay, my height is this, my weight is this. They're like, yeah, we'll get to all of that. I need to find out the things that matter. Are you married? Do you have family dinners together? How often do you travel? Tell me about your work schedule. Does the boss call you after hours? Are you on the clock? Are you working 24/7? How do you sleep? Tell me about your friends and how you like to spend time with them. Because those are all the pieces that ultimately are going to dictate what scientific protocol we implement, what strategy we use. And so the key is when you care about someone and you can take the time to really get to know them, you can figure out what strategy is going to work best for them to actually transform.
So when you talk about transformation, back to that for a second, you're saying that in order to really, let's say, merit the term transformation, it's got to be more than lose weight. It's got to be more than lose body fat. It has to involve all of those elements, and that adds up to. Well, you tell me what it adds up to. If I'm a client, and I've worked with MetPro for a while, and I say, I've worked with you guys for 6 months.
Yep.
I feel transformed.
Yep.
What are they really saying? What has happened for a lot? I know people come to you for different reasons. Some people come to lose weight. Some people come to get stronger. Some people come to train for a particular sport. But is there kind of a pattern that you hear that somebody says, yes, I'm transformed and these?
Yes, absolutely. So what you just asked was really fundamentally the difference between goals versus values. So I talk a lot about this. And by the way, I'm a big fan of both goals and values. But values are superior to goals. And once your lifestyle, your health choices, your fitness choices, and your personal culture of well-being are matched by those are values you've adopted, they are yours forever. A goal is a tool to use as a stepping stone to adopting a broader value. I'll give you a classic scenario. So, I mean, we're a makeover company. So I get calls all the time. You know, I got this high school reunion. I got the classic. I'm getting married in 6 weeks. I want to look like a stud or a studette for my wedding day. Awesome. Great. Let's get you super healthy, super fit. Let's looking great. But if I can't get someone to adopt what we're doing as a life value, what happens? What happens a few weeks after the wedding date?
Yeah, or a few days after.
Few days, right? Exactly. So that's where the transformation when somebody is successful. And so I define it in this way: their actions, and I don't want this to just be all touchy-feely motivation. That's a part of it, but it also boils down to the right science. I mean, if you have all the motivation, all the oomph in the world, but you don't have the right strategy, that's going to be disappointing. But it comes back to the moment in time where all of your strategy, all of your motivation, all of your efforts had led you to a point where inertia is going to cause you to continue to get healthier and in better shape, versus if you let go of the steering wheel, inertia is going to cause you to drift off the embankment. And if you really ask yourself that question, I have lots of clients. I'm like, Johnny, what do you don't need me. It's like, yeah, but I like shooting the breeze with you. I like you bossing me around. I'm like, great, I'll work with you as long as you want. You got this. And then I have clients, they're like, hey, I lost the weight, I'm there, I really appreciate it. We're going to wrap up at the end of this month. And I say, no, you're not. You're not there. You say goodbye to me, it will be 5 days before we're having troubles. And I'll just level with people and I'll tell them, because when you're at the point where inertia is going to carry you, and that point is you've adopted the lifestyle as a value. And that I can't have this conversation without circling it back to dovetailing into the science. And I know this is cliche, but if you're following a meal plan or a workout strategy or a routine that is not sustainable, you see why we're going to have problems there? So again, it's cliche, but it's true. It has to be something that's sustainable, and that's where the science comes in.
So one of the things I'm hearing there is that transformation equals permanence.
Yes.
So when somebody says, I lost 60 pounds, I am transformed. And then you talk to them 6 months later and it's like, well, I'm not as transformed as I used to be. In fact, I'm less transformed than when I started. So that wasn't really transformation. That was weight loss. That sounds like the difference to me.
Correct. That's it. And so I'll tell you one of my tricks. Sometimes when I'm first talking with someone, and I'll do basically a personal wellness recall. I say, okay, talk to me about your journey thus far. What's worked and what's haven't. And usually people will have a story for me of what's worked, and I have to correct them. Now, not always, but here's how this plays out. Well, I did this XYZ juice fast and it worked really well. Or I did this, super restrictive, low carb, high protein, and it worked really well. And I said, oh, that's great to know. I'm going to make some notes on that. And I, draw on the chalkboard and I'm, okay, so how well did it work? It's like, well, I lost 35 pounds. I said, great. So what's your current weight? And then the gentleman's like 200. Perfect. So you used to weigh 235 and now you're 200. And I pause and he goes, oh no, I've gained it back. I'm like, John, I asked you what's worked for you in the past.
No, you're using the name John as kind of a generic.
It is a generic, yes.
Yeah, but you might as, I mean, you're telling my story. And you're
Steve.
the story of a lot of people who are listening to this. I just to make it, to validate what you're saying. I have done a lot of things that have, insert air quotes here, worked.
Right.
In air quotes. And it was really, for example, back in the, I'm going to say late 90s, and I went on Atkins, and I lost so much weight, man. It was like unzipping a fat suit and letting it. And then maybe 15 years ago, I said, you know what? I need to lose weight. That transformation didn't stick. So I said, I'm gonna do Atkins again, because that worked before. That worked. And nothing happened. It was so weird. It was so frustrating. It was like, I know all I got to do is cut out the carbs and then everything, and I'll unzip the fat suit, and the fat was going, oh no, I'm not leaving. And it was so confusing. So then I tried some other things that worked, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know I am telling a very common story. And in fact, I would suggest that is the most common story. So what you're saying is that transformation equals permanence, and that you guys have been able to achieve that. That's a huge statement.
Well, it's kind of a tough sales pitch, because they're like, well, why should I do it? Is your program easier? No. Is it faster? No. well, you're really selling me here. When you do it right, what you get is you get permanence out of it. Now, I mean, I'm not, I don't look at anything through rose-colored glasses. Life happens for anyone. But, so a little bit on my background. So when I started in the industry, I spent years in the physique sports. So that's not me personally. I was the guy with the cane. But I would train the physique competitors, the bodybuilders, the bikini, the figure, all of that. And these are people, basically, they earn their paycheck by, this is what they do for a living, is their physique. On stage. So, no rock is left unturned with them. So I did that for about a decade, and it was very rewarding. And the science that we use for that is still the science that we use today. It's the application of those learnings. So most people can't really relate to something at that level of structure. And it's not sustainable for most people. That doesn't mean we can't apply the 80-20 rule. Why can't we get 80% of the benefits out of that, right? With the things that are and so here's what it boils down to. People ask me all the time, say, well, Angelo, I know the celebrities you've worked with. I know the athletes you've worked with. I've seen the transformations. Wow, what's the secret food? Or what's the secret exercise? I'm going to tell you the secret right now. It's not a special food. It's not a special diet. It's not a special exercise routine. It's time management. Time management is the key. And a lot of people say, well, I know what I need to do. I bet you do. I know you do. In fact, my job is to help you execute on what you already know quicker, because speed is king. If you can get into a routine where you can execute quickly, sometimes that means you have to have a strategy for when you're going to be traveling and on the road and busy. You have to have a strategy for food prep. Sometimes it's just simply a matter of, what do I eat? What is the right approach for me? Because you can Google fat loss and get 10 million strategies. And oh, by the way, they're not all a bunch of snake oil sales. They all work. I've seen every approach where I've been doing this. I'm in the 80s. There were stunning physiques, sweatpants and the brow sweatband and the running club and, the low calorie, higher carb meal plan. The 90s, late 90s, Atkins came on and that was just actually a copy of what an Arctic explorer did 100 years ago in discovering, all these diets. And there's nothing new. This is all old stuff circled back around. And then we took all our carbs, we marched them out back and we shot them. And then all of a sudden we're dropping weight like no business. And then every mid 40s female that's starting to hit hormonal triggers in her life at that age is going to the doctor and saying, I think I'm carb sensitive. And the doctor's saying, yeah, I think you're carb sensitive. And now we have an entire society of people who are carb sensitive. And there's really a small percentage that are carb sensitive. What's just happened is they've got their body into this biological state where their body is handling carbs a certain way because it's been trained, and we don't know how to get out of that. And then we moved from the 90s into the 2000s. In the 2000s, we actually kind of had a good movement going, where a little bit of good mojo, where people are thinking, maybe it's not any one food group, maybe it's actually just eating quality foods. And that was great. And so we're eating organic foods, we're eating clean foods, and we're stripping out processed and chemicals. But then I started getting different phone calls. They're like, hey, I've been eating super healthy. I mean, I'm drinking my water out of glass jars. I eat everything organic. I'm juicing but I'm not losing any weight. I'm like, well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we have two topics here. And it's not that one's more important than the other, but there's energetic pathways, macronutrients, calories, and energy balance. And then there's health. And they're two different topics. They're both important and they can coexist, but they are two different topics. I mean, I call it like I see it, Steve. I've been doing this for years. And I can tell you lots of people who eat highly processed, chemical, basically synthetic foods as most of their daily diet. And I know because a lot of them are bodybuilders and physique. And I don't recommend this as a great healthy meal plan, but boy, they look shredded on stage, right?
Right.
So there has to be some meeting, some blend of the two. And most people, and this is where I think the industry and I'm accusing now, I don't want to accuse, but we're all guilty of it. Both the medical industry, the fitness industry, the weight loss industry, is this mentality of you got to want it bad enough. Most people don't get the results they want because they're just not willing to put in the effort. I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I've dieted 20,000 people. I can tell you, and while that absolutely exists, and I've had to have some, real, let's talk reality conversations with some people, by and large, that has not been my experience. Most people I've worked with are willing to do what it takes. It's that they have to be met with some results. And it doesn't have to be some extraordinary, wow, I'm losing 10 pounds a week. My body's, they have to see some progress. One of my personal mentors and coaches had a saying that it's rung true for years. He said, there is no greater human motivator than progress.
Right.
If you're seeing progress, you're going to be willing to do what it takes. And so that dovetails back into the science. You have to have the right science.
That reminds me of one of my mentors about progress. He said, people, this whole kind of notion that people resist change, that they don't like change. People don't like change, but they love progress.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm changing. If you're having me change up my diet, if you're having me change up my lifestyle, and I'm not feeling like I'm progressing, then what's the point of all that change?
Yeah.
And progress, of course, is change. So, but it's change in a direction that feels meaningful and beneficial to me.
Right.
Now, I want to turn the focus a little bit inward for a moment on MetPro as a company. So how long ago did you start the company?
So I owned a gym. I actually owned a private training gym. And so we would do the fitness, the nutrition, the whole 9 yards. And then probably about, I guess it's been about 8 years now. The methodologies that we were using for our nutrition coaching, I wrote a book on it. It's called, oddly enough, MetPro, which, by the way, is short for Metabolic Profiling. And I'll share just the high levels of what that process looks like in a moment, if that's all right. But basically, what we were doing is I had identified that the biggest factor in predicting how someone's going to respond to a particular nutrition strategy or exercise strategy, we'll say nutrition because that's the more mysterious of the two, is actually what they're used to eating. So I used to have people, because keep in mind, I was injured, so I would travel and I would give seminars and lectures, hospitals, clubs, colleges, you name it. And I would have this little intake form. And guess what's on it? All the height, weight, gender, activity level. And then I would have this little nutritional intake form where they would write down what they're used to eating. And do you know, it kind of dawned on me, this is going back now, years and years and years. It dawned on me that I quit looking at height, weight, and gender and just went straight to what they're used to eating, because it was so much more indicative of how their body would likely respond. Yet what's our current, medical science? You go to, well, what's your BMI? Oh, you need this many calories. Even the doctors know that's garbage. It's just not. They'll tell you that it just doesn't work that way. I wish it did. But everybody listening, if you've ever tried a diet, if you've ever got on one of those treadmills and it says you burned 500 calories and you did the math, or you went on a diet and you did the math, at the end of the week, you're scratching your head going, what the heck? This isn't right. So that's how the metabolic profiling process, which was a series of identifying where a personal, unique metabolic rating is at. So we don't waste time with a strategy that isn't going to work, with a meal plan that isn't going to work for you. So I'll give you an example in a story that I think you'll like. I would always, when I would go to do these seminars, I'd usually pick one of the gals out of the front that was, fit and healthy. And I would ask her, we'll call her Julie. I'd say, okay, Julie here in the front, clearly you take good care of yourself, you exercise, you eat good. She says, yes, I eat good. I say, okay, what would happen, Julie? Because I really believe we are all the experts on our own bodies. We've lived in our own bodies for quite a while. We know what's up. What would happen, Julie, if we changed nothing about your diet or exercise, but you ate a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream every night before you went to bed? Well, she laughs and she tells me something about how her life would be beautiful again.
That was my first thought.
Right. Yeah, me too. But then she says, well, I'd gain weight. And I say, well, I am an expert on metabolism and nutrition, and I concur. You will gain weight. You are correct. So here's the question. Now let's do a little math here. How much weight would you gain in 30 days? Now, every seminar I would do, I would ask this question. And invariably, 100 times I've asked this question, invariably, the girl will usually tell me I'd gain between 5 and 15 pounds in a month. Now, while everyone's individual and there are some outliers, that answer roughly holds up. If you go home and you eat a pint of ice cream every night before bed, you're going to gain about 5 to 15 pounds in 1 month. Now, here's something interesting. How much would you gain, Julie, we're using her as the example, if you continued that in a year? And she stops and she thinks about it. And she'll come back to me and she'll say, I'd probably gain between 20 and 30 pounds. Now, this is a gal that weighs maybe, 125 pounds? So there's a problem with that. The problem is she's right, which means that something is wrong with our medical science, our fitness science, our nutrition methodology, and our understanding of how calories in and calories out works. Because a pint of ice cream is about 1,000 calories. So 1,000 calories a night is 7,000 calories a week. Now, what we do know, what is factual, is there's 3,500 calories in 1 pound of body fat. Therefore, a week would equal 2 pounds. There are 52 weeks in a year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I concur.
You think that sounds right? Yeah. So 52 weeks in a year. Julie, are you going to gain 104 pounds in a year? Now, anyone at this seminar, raise your hand if you think Julie's going to gain 104 pounds. no takers. And I got intelligent people at these seminars. A lot of times I got doctors and nutritionists and people in the industry at these seminars, yet I don't ever get any takers. So we have to answer why. Why? She would gain 20 or 30 pounds. She will not be happy with that. That will be miserable. But she won't gain 104 pounds, and the math says she would. That means, and I would love for someone to prove me wrong here, that means that Ben & Jerry's ice cream speeds your metabolism. Am I doing the math wrong on that? Where am I going wrong? Again, don't go, well, Mr. Poli said I should eat Ben & Jerry's because it speeds my metabolism. Trust me, you're not going to like the outcome, but you're not going to gain weight in ratio to your transgression.
And so when you say that, you're saying that the body, essentially the body adapts.
Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly it.
Time for Ben & Jerry's. At first, it's like packing it on, but then after a while, there's something that happens in the metabolism that accounts for that. Is that?
The function of the metabolism is misunderstood. Most people think it's just something there because, it has to keep them humble in life. It's there to torment them and to make them irritated all the time. The function of your metabolism is to keep your body in homeostasis, basically a state where you are neither gaining nor losing mass quickly. If it can no longer do that, if it cannot regulate to acclimate to your nutritional environment, we die. It's that simple. So whether you're eating too much or too little, the job of your metabolism is to acclimate to it. So weight loss and weight gain is not something that happens that's triggered by some mythical BMI caloric intake chart. It is simply what takes place during the time interval that it takes your metabolism to adapt to its new nutritional environment. And what we define as a fast metabolism versus a slow metabolism is simply it's as simple as this. It's someone who is predisposed to acclimating quicker to a reduction in intake, or acclimating slower to an increase in intake. But you will acclimate or you die. If you just keep gaining weight, you'll die. If you just keep losing weight, you'll die. You never go on a diet and say, well, I did this diet, it worked really good, but I had to stop because pretty soon I was going to waste away and end up in the hospital. You don't hear that story. No, whatever diet you go on, unless it's something, absurd, your metabolism adapts. Well, I lost this weight, and then this weight loss just out of nowhere after about 3 weeks slowed down.
So then the challenge is to be able to measure. Tell me if I'm saying this right. Measure the metabolism and make adjustments along the way so it stays. So it's doing what it needs to do for whatever goal you have. If you're trying to put on muscle or you're trying to lose weight.
That's it.
Say, I'm going to go on a keto diet and I'll do that forever because the body's going to adapt to it. So I might do that for a while, but then I have to change it up. And it's knowing what to do to change it up that leaves us all in the dust. Right?
Exactly.
First of all, it's not understanding that we need to do that. I mean, that's like me with saying, I'll just go back to doing Atkins, which is basically just another right? I'll just do that again. And that didn't work. So your company is built around that idea of helping people to make those kind of adjustments in various ways, right?
It's built around those exact metrics.
So you did that on your own at first, then you built the company around you. How many people on your team?
We have about 30, and they are fabulous. Now, in that number, of course, we have phenomenal tech support and developers, and we have, the whole architecture of how we're blending the nutritional science and coaching with technology. So we have both a high touch concierge, handheld approach where somebody who really wants to work with a consultant day in and day out can take that approach. And then we also have our technology, our tools that anybody can download and start using and at least get the benefit of tools to track their metabolism. And the tools show you everything. This is the metrics we're looking at. So I often kind of joke with people, it's if you work with MetPro, here's what I can promise you. I can't promise you good news or bad news. What I can promise you is accurate news. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a baseline testing meal plan where I know the macronutrient breakdown, I know the calories, the glycemic load, and all the details that go into the meal plan you're on. Going to be a boring meal plan. Nothing fancy, simple. Here's what's magical about this meal plan is I have had thousands of other males in their early 50s, females in their late 20s, whatever demographic you are. I have had thousands do the exact same meal plan first. So I have definitive data on averages. Now what I'm going to get is your average. Based on this, in 72 hours, you gained 1 pound. You lost 2 pounds. It might be good news. It might be terrible news, but it will finally be accurate news without any guessing. Based on that news, now I can come back to you and I can say, John, you were right. Your metabolism stinks. Here's what we're going to do about it. Or John, your metabolic rate is just fine. Here are our next steps. Once I have that data, then I build someone their meal plan, not before. First, that's just a testing, a parsing agent. Once I have the data and how their body is responding, because this is my pet peeve. There's a lot of very intelligent people that go wrong in the industry is they say, oh, I'm going to help you eat healthy, get in shape. And then they say, I want to get to know you, but first let me give you your diet. Like, what? You did it backwards. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to see how you respond. And then based on that data, not my experience with anyone else, because that's so frustrating. You know how it goes. You got your next door neighbor who's eating cheeseburger and fries and, is just trying to figure out what shirt to go with his washboard abs. It's not fair.
I'd just like to concur. I'd like to just offer you a note of support in what you're saying. You are right. That is anyway, go ahead.
What matters is figuring out where your body is at. And that's why the whole model is based around baseline testing. And I trick people into it because they're like, oh, it's just 72 hours. It's a baseline test. Well, don't tell anyone, Steve, but the baseline testing never stops. Whatever meal plan I design for you next is really an extension of that baseline test where I'm going to watch and go, okay, time to change it again, time to change it again. But at least I know what you can and can't get away with. So I am more aggressive for a few days. Now, I know there's a few gurus out there who are listening that will say, wait a second, this sounds good, but 72 hours, you can't figure out what somebody needs or doesn't need in 72 hours. Well, you're right, big picture, but that's where technology is really cool these days. I mean, technology is pretty amazing with what we can do. So the metrics we can evaluate in real time now, just using a simple app, if you're willing to participate and enter some data, gives us real-time feedback. And within just 3 or 4 days, we can't get enough data for me to go, okay, my name's on it. This is it once for all time, right for you. But I can get enough data to say it's time to make a 10% recalculation. I can get enough data to go, okay, we need to go in this direction, this direction. Over the course of a few weeks, I will have you dialed.
Okay, so I want to take the methodology and just put it on the shelf for a second. I want to come back to it.
Okay.
More questions about that. I just want to take a look inside the company.
Okay.
So you've got people who are fitness coaches. They've been trained by you, obviously. They're using the technology. You've got great technology. How would you describe the culture of MetPro? What's it like to work there? What's the kind of the vibe of the company? Kind of peel back the curtain.
So we are genuinely like a big family. We get together each morning. All of the coaches get together, and now we're doing it, remotely, of course, and over Zoom. But we all get together. We share our wins. We communicate. Often there are other coaches within the team that are following the journey of a specific client. We're talking about how they're progressing, what their obstacles are, and what strategies we might come up with to help them. So much of what we're going to do is going to revolve around making your life easier. So once we dial in, okay, we're tracking your metrics, we've got your metabolism.
Where you go there?
Yeah.
Going back to the methodology, I'm still on the culture.
Culture. Okay. Yes. I'm going to get there.
I'm curious that the dynamics. You say you're like a family.
Yes.
And nowadays everything is remote.
Yep.
Talking about this, and we keep calling it the middle of the pandemic, but it's a very long middle.
It's a long middle.
Hopefully, there's light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yes.
What you guys you're based in Chico, California. Yep. But you have people that live remotely as well.
We do.
So if I were to ask you, give me a few like qualities or characteristics that describe your culture. What are some of the words that you use?
Passion. You can't fake it. It's not a job you can, well, I want to try this industry out, or I want to do this. I heard I can make a few dollars. You have to love it. Now that's specifically the coaching department, but everyone at our company has to be moving forward on the same boat with what we're trying to do. We're trying to innovate. So I'm not interested in doing what's already been done in the area of body transformations. That doesn't keep me excited. What keeps me excited is forging new ground, finding new innovations. And I was going to pull that around so those morning meetings when we get all together, we talk about a client and then we figure out what attributes and what qualities is going to best help them. And so we do something that's called our metabolic profile, our personality profile. And what we have learned is, though, every coach on our team, whether they're overseeing our technology, our app, and our tools for tracking the metabolism, or actually working with clients one-on-one, every coach will communicate based on the filter of what our client's psychological profile is. And it doesn't mean that there's right or wrong. What it means is we all respond differently to different types of touches. So we're not, there's a lot of really great like personality tests out there. We're not that technical in that department. What we do is we put everyone into 3 basic communication buckets. So there's the person that responds best in a culture of support, congratulatory, feeling like they always have someone there. And guess what? That describes every single person on planet Earth at some point. That's not just one type of person. Everyone is that way to a greater or lesser degree. Then there's people in the middle who are the just tell me why. They're the I need an instructor that's going to teach me. I'll do anything you tell me if you can explain why and I can understand it. That's the boat I fall into. That's how I respond. I'm the why guy. Then there are people that, you don't need to bore me with that stuff. Just, I want you to tell me what you did this morning and I'm going to beat it. That personality type, right? And so now that the science is going to dictate what I tell you to eat. That's all science. Now, how we present that. Hey, Johnny, I saw you nailed that lunch we talked about yesterday. Great job. Talk to me. What have we done to make sure that you're not scrambling the last minute to get this tomorrow? Hey, Johnny, great job hitting that lunch. Remember we talked about why we decreased your carbs by 15 grams and we're doing a little extra protein for the next week? Remember we talked about since we made this adjustment to your training and your breakfast, so great job following through with that. Hey, Johnny, I saw you checked off your meal today. Let's see if you can do it for dinner also. Get with the program. So it's all the same science, but we respond differently, and that's not theory. So when I first started in this industry, I would travel from club to club. And basically what I would do is I would oversee the nutritional coaching for entire facilities, clubs, private coaching departments. And then the trainers would handle the exercise. And it was amazing how I would see the same exact science, though implemented by a different trainer, a different style, a different approach, all of a sudden break something loose for someone. Motivationally, psychologically, they were able to relate. There was a trigger in that relationship that just gave them what they needed. That can make all the difference. But we did an exercise I think you'll love, Steve. I had all of my coaches write down. I said, I want you to give me a list of your favorite 5 clients. Write them down. Now, I asked everyone, what's the commonality between them? Are they all super athletes? Are they all this? Are they all that? I had the privilege years ago, I got to work with Aaron Rodgers. Talk about an athlete. What a privilege. He's amazing. So a reporter interviewed me and she said, what do you look for in a client? Someone that just is stellar, raw talent and genetic and just has all this potential. I just laughed. I said, I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm going to be spending hours of my life with you. All I look for is just be interesting, be someone I enjoy talking to, you know? And she got a kick out of that. But it's the same thing. So I asked my coaches, why did you pick these people? And you know what the answer was? It's the people that they felt loved them and appreciated them the most. And I said, what's the commonality? And guess what? It all boiled down to is it's the clients they loved the most. So you want to know the trick to having great clients that you enjoy working with and that enjoy working with you? Love them. You're going to find something about I have learned so much about lifestyles and cultures I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about equestrian. I knew nothing about submarines. I knew nothing about a race to Antarctica. I do now. I got to go on these little journeys with all these just awesome, interesting people that I've gotten to work with. I've learned something new from every single client I've worked with. And the team that I work with has that same sense of wonder and excitement with each new person they get to meet. And it's that interactive passion that is critical to a functioning team for our industry, for what we do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what you're describing to me is this wonderful kind of cycle that happens with the dynamic of love and fascination, or love and curiosity. So if I love you, I'm more interested in you and your life. The more I learn about you and your life, because I'm interested in it, the deeper the relationship gets, the deeper the connection gets. It's just simple human nature.
Absolutely.
Side in the context of business, but it's just as if not even more important there. You know, around these parts, you know, where I come from, we call it do what you love in the service of people who love what you do.
That's awesome.
So you're doing what you love. I mean, you wouldn't. I'm guessing here, so correct me if I'm wrong. You wouldn't have people on your team that don't love this. They love it, otherwise they wouldn't be working, right? So they're doing what they love. They're using that to serve the client, right? They're not just, sequestered in the cave somewhere working on their own fitness because they love it.
It has to be. Yep.
The transformation piece, which is helping somebody else change. That is service in a very high form. And you're doing what you love, therefore serving people using your expertise, your techniques, your technology, your methodology, because you love it. You're serving them to such a large degree that what happens is they reciprocate. They love you in return. So when you sit down and say, who are my top five clients? What is it about them? Well, I love them and they love me. And we just have a great time together. I've learned so much and they've learned a lot. And that's the dynamic that we should all be striving for, whatever business that we're in. You just happen to be in a business, I think, where the nature of it is person. So it wouldn't be, or it shouldn't be, I should say, it shouldn't be as hard to get there because you're already dealing with people's really fundamental very personal aspirations and goals and frustrations and lifestyles and all of that. So you're really uniquely positioned to, as we like to say around here, operationalize love as a business principle.
It sounds like you've done this a time or two, Steve.
It's my passion is finding all kinds of companies in all kinds of industries, various parts of the world that are experiencing that to some degree or another. It's not so much that I go out and teach this to people, although I certainly do, but it's really about uncovering it where it's already happening, shining a light on it, and saying, see, Angelo and his team, they're involved in body transformation. These guys over here are in shipping and logistics. These people over here are in the collections industry. These people over here are in financial services. These people are in manufacturing. What do they all have in common? Love, baby.
Yeah, baby.
People that get it, right? That of course is what this podcast is all about. But all right, so I want to go back to them. So you guys are you get together in the morning, you get that sense of camaraderie, but it's not just for that. It's to make use of the brain trust on behalf of your clients. Right? You're all kind of focusing in on various clients, even though one person might be more the coach or be responsible for that person. So all of that comes to bear on each of you, on all of your clients, right? Because again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing here, I would imagine that because you're as a team focused in on one particular client as let's call it a case study or whatever, an opportunity to offer ideas, that becomes part of the overall knowledge base of the company that everybody will be able to apply to all of their clients.
That's right.
So your knowledge base is growing over time, and you're capturing that also in your technology. So it's not
right.
Individual, hearts and minds of the coach. Does that sound accurate? You
nailed it. You nailed it on the head. That's exactly. And we're also a little bit nerdy. So we geek out over data. And one of the unique things that MetPro, Metabolic Profiling, has allowed us to do is really answer some of the more challenging questions when it comes to metabolism. So I talk so much about metabolism and nutrition, not because it's more important than exercise or any other piece that we address daily and head on, because it's more mysterious. There's more confusion around it. It's people know, I got to exercise regular. Okay, now we can dive into the nuance. Are we going to do resistance training, endurance training, interval training, circuit training, cross training, straight up strength training? How much of your week is going to be split up into it? I get these hotshot executives that'll call me up and go, Angelo, I know who you are. I know what you do. Here's what I want. I want to bench 300 pounds. I want to run a sub 6 minute mile. And oh, by the way, I want to lose 50 pounds. Are you the guy to get me there? And I say, absolutely. I can get you there. But here's what you got to do. Of those three things, which do you want to accomplish first? Because if you try and do all three at once, not going to happen. We know now, we have the data. So we're big nerds when it comes to that. We're always sharing with one another. So, for some reason, some areas of the industry, there's people that it's like when they learn how to do, they kind of want to hold it to themselves. And, I got some. Drop all that. I've been trying to shout this from the rooftops for years. And I get people that'll tell me, oh, Angelo, your company, it's an overnight success. Congratulations. I'm like, overnight success? I've been yelling and doing this for 20 years. You just weren't around. You share it. If you try and teach people what you know, it's never going to hurt you. It's always going to come back to you and bring you more. And that's the principles we live by. And within the company, we have exercise physiologists. We have people that are have a just incredible stock in a certain area. We have brilliant registered dietitians, people who come from more of a medical background, people who come from more of a fitness background, people who come from a coaching and psychology background. And so they all support one another, so that way we can love on our clients. And that's actually one of the things we say in our company is, what are we doing today to love on our clients?
You actually use those words.
We actually use those words.
So what does that end up looking like? So what kind of answers do you get? What are we doing to love on our clients? Well,
one of the things that we actually request as part of the coach's job is we have we want, even though we're texting and talking on the phone, sometimes video if a client wants, but it's usually text and talking on the phone all week long with a client. We ask our coaches to find outside of the box ways to interact with their clients. And here's usually what form that comes in. It's sharing something about themselves. Hey, Johnny, I want to send you this picture. I was just in the store and I saw this and it made me think of you. Make them part of your life. Now, I'm not talking about inappropriate prying and things. I know people hire us for a job. But when you get to know someone, you work with someone, there's a familiarity, you start to care, you care about them and you think about them. And this comes back down to the practicality. One coach is not working with 10,000 clients, right? And so that's the business model and how it's laid out. So you have a coach that actually is not just on a first name basis with their client. It's way beyond that. They should know their clients' kids' first names and their pets' first names, because these conversations have come up. And you're going to win together and you're going to lose together. And I don't like to lose, Steve. I don't know if you've got that yet. I mean, you and I have been talking a little bit. I really don't like to lose, which is why people say, well, how do I know that you're going to get me the results? It's because I don't like to lose. And so there's a little bit of that in our coaches too, right? That's all part of it, and that's all good. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so we've got a really good kind of overview of your approach, your culture, the thinking behind it, the heart behind it. So I'd like to, I want people to know that as I kind of, you may have inferred from my intro that we are working together on Project Farber.
A worthy project.
I'm just getting started with you guys. And so what we're going to do, the plan is I'm going to work with you guys for at least another month or so. And it'll end up being a lot longer than that, I suspect. But in about a month, we're gonna do another podcast, you and I. And we're gonna let people know what has happened over that month with my experience with you guys.
Awesome.
That's the plan.
Awesome.
So I've already started down this path, and I'm using the app. I'm working with one of your coaches, and it's we're off to a good start. And what I would like to do is invite anybody who's listening to come along on this ride if you'd like to. There's a real, and this is the way that I started with it. So I learned of your work through another podcast. You were a guest on my brother from another mother, Adam Markell's podcast.
Yeah.
Be a guest on this podcast. If he hasn't been already by the time you're hearing. Actually, I think he's going to be on the week after.
That's awesome.
The Conscious Pivot podcast. So I heard you there, and I thought, this sounds really interesting. I've been on a freaking roller coaster my entire life. So let's give that a shot. So my experience before you and I even met, I just reached out to the company kind of anonymously, and I had a really good experience talking with one of your kind of intake coaches. I don't know what you call him, but Steve.
Steve, yeah, he's one of our consultants. Uh-huh.
So here's what my invitation to folks. You can get a free assessment. You can take an assessment online, and you can actually book a call with Steve, the same guy that I talked to, and just kind of rate your own experience on that. And then you guys have an app that people can sign up for.
Yep.
I think if I'm not mistaken, they can do it for free for a short period of time, just to get a sense of it.
Yep. Make sure it's a good fit for you.
Yeah. So and we'll put this in the show notes, but the URL is metpro.co/lovebiz, LOVEBIZ. So then we'll know that you're a listener to this podcast, and we can kind of compare notes together for anybody who wants to hop on this journey, which I would highly recommend that you at least explore. You know, and if it's for you, great. And if it's not, great. But wouldn't it be fun to kind of try this together? And just to be clear, this is not because, I know a lot of people in the let's say nutrition industry, network marketing industry, that kind of a thing. This is not that. This is not that. It's not. There's no product to be sold. It's a service that you can sell, but it's not for everybody, and it could be really powerful. I'm going to find out for myself if it is. So far, so good, but we'll see in about a month. And again, I invite you to come along with me on this at metpro.co/lovebiz. And Angelo, what fun, man! It's
oh man,
talk to you. Your passion for your work is evident. I love that you take on your clients' challenges as a personal challenge. It feels good to have somebody saying, "I'm not going to fail." Whether you it's a nice thing. When that is based on my results. But anyway, any last words for this time around until next we meet?
I just want to express my gratitude, Steve. This is this has been awesome. Thank you so much for giving us a shout out. Inviting your audience to come and talk with our Steve, and for just experiencing it, because you have an energy about you. And I'm not going to share all your details, but let me tell you the coach you're working with. Oh, I can talk about him all day. He's one of my best friends. So you're working with Jared. He was a client before he worked for MetPro. So he's one of those stories. He came on he may have told you this, he played for Vanderbilt. And he was a big boy. And after he was done playing, he said, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to drop the pounds. So you ask Jared what his experience has been and why he now is a coach at MetPro. This is years removed, of course. But ask him what his journey has been. And he'll just tell you so everything he's asking you to do, he's walked that path. He's done. He's taken those steps. So this is going to be great. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey. And it's just been an honor being here today with you.
Thank you, Angelo. And thank you all for tuning in to Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. And until next time, do what you love in the service of people.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Love is Just Damn Good Business with Steve Farber. Join us again next time, because when customer and employee satisfaction just isn't enough anymore, we are here to back you up with specific ideas to operationalize love to make an enormous difference in your business, personal life, and the world around you. Visit our website at stevefarber.com to leave a review. And don't forget to share the love with your colleagues and friends, because after all, it's just damn good business.